of the Republican establishment are finally going over to Ted Cruz's side, if only to thwart an increasingly unpredictable Donald Trump. Jeb Bush endorsed Cruz on Wednesday. That same day, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker acknowledged that Cruz is the only one still in the race who has any chance of defeating Trump. Walker has yet to make an official endorsement, and his could be particularly important as it's increasingly looking like Wisconsin will be the Stop Trump movement's last stand. A poll this week shows Cruz and Trump neck and neck, with Cruz slightly ahead. Wisconsin is winner-take-all by state and by congressional district, so even a slight voter lead could mean huge delegate gains for Cruz. And joining me now, Republican economist Bruce Bartlett, and back with me are Jason Johnson and Yamiche Alcindor. And I'm going to revise you, Bruce, because I think you're now an independent, but I'm going to go to you as my expert on the GOP. Why do you suppose it's governors that seem to be willing now to get behind Ted Cruz, but you still don't see much of the Washington sort of senatorial establishment getting behind Cruz?
Well, I think the big problem for the Republican establishment, which I assume the governors tend to represent, is the impact of Trump at the top of the ticket on down ticket races for governor, for Senate, for Congress. I think they're desperately afraid that many Republicans will stay home on Election Day rather than vote for Trump, and they're desperately trying to find somebody at the top of the ticket, whether it's Cruz or perhaps somebody else in a brokered convention, perhaps a Paul Ryan, who of course is from Wisconsin, might motivate Republicans to at least come out and vote and keep control of Congress. I think that's their main concern right at the moment.
And Bruce, to stay with you for a moment, what do you think would be the impact if a brokered convention, let's say, placed Scott Walker as the nominee, because he doesn't seem to be opposed to taking it if they'd offer it to him? What would be the results among rank-and-file Republicans if they were to do something like that?
I think it would be a disaster, because you're in effect thwarting the will of the people. You're just ignoring all of the results of the primaries. You're saying that none of the candidates, either Trump or Cruz or Kasich or any of the ones who have already dropped out, we're just going to ignore all those people and impose some, from some backroom, smoke-filled room deal, somebody who's never won a single primary. I think that's insane and really impossible for me to imagine.
And Yamiche, you've heard this week the Daily Beast was reporting that forces sort of swirling around the world of Marco Rubio may have had a hand in pushing some of the National Enquirer stuff about Ted Cruz. You still see a tremendous amount of infighting among the Stop Trump candidates. Just from a reporting standpoint, why no consolidation if the party is so opposed to having Donald Trump be the nominee? Why is there not more consolidation behind someone like a Ted Cruz?
I think there's not more consolidation, because if you think about Ted Cruz, he was someone who was also seen as an outsider. This election was really about insiders and outsiders, even on the Democratic side. So Ted Cruz, while he's now kind of the person that everyone's looking to, at the beginning of this, we were talking about Ted Cruz as if he was someone who the Senate wasn't going to like. His Senate colleagues have not endorsed him as much as other candidates. And I think one of the things that's really important is that it's really late in the game. The idea is that if we were really going to see some consolidation and a real effort to stop Trump, it should have, a lot of people say that it should have come a lot earlier. So I think that the real issue and why people are struggling with trying to consolidate is that they're now just trying to decide, okay, well, if we have to choose somebody, we're going to choose Ted Cruz. And that's really hard, because that really doesn't have the enthusiasm that has if you say 6 months ago someone said, okay, we're really going to settle on Marco Rubio, and now we're going to try to put all our money there. So I think it's really kind of late. But Wisconsin is a really important state. They're spending a lot of money in Wisconsin. I should say the Republicans who are trying to stop Donald Trump are spending a lot of money in that state. So I think there's still going to be a big push there. It's just, it is late.
And if Ted Cruz, Jason, were to win Wisconsin, what would that do to the race? It wouldn't catch him up in delegates, but what do you think that would do then for the Stop Trump movement? Why are they so focused on Wisconsin?
Well, they will be thrilled, and the sort of, hashtag hold your nose for Cruz campaign would feel a bit more enthusiastic, because if he could win a state and win a state that's winner take all, it makes it all the more likely that Donald Trump won't be able to have the necessary delegates, which means they could possibly try something at the convention. But I think it's even bigger than that. I think that what the story you sort of mentioned earlier, this National Enquirer story, if that doesn't have legs and Ted Cruz can go through that sort of controversy, whatever it is it may amount to, and still win win a state, it actually also makes him look like a more viable candidate. That'll mean he can take an outside hit and still win in the primaries, and it may bring more people to his side.
And, you know, Bruce, one of the more sort of fascinating developments that I've been reading about in the last few days is this lose with Cruz idea, the idea that some Republicans, establishment Republicans, would rather see Cruz be the nominee, even though they believe he would not win in the general, as an idea that they would then try to get their ducks back in a row and reconsolidate and reconstitute the party for 2020. Are you hearing that sort of thinking taking place on the right?
Not really. I'm hearing more about the possibility of a brokered convention and the possibility that a white knight will emerge. But I think from the establishment's point of view, even though Cruz is an outsider, he's a little bit less of an outsider than Trump. And I think he's the vehicle really just for a Stop Trump movement. I don't think it's pro-Cruz so much as anti-Trump at this point.
And Yamiche, in the state of Wisconsin, where are the Bradley Foundation of the world, the Koch brothers, where are they in terms of any interest in any of these candidates, whether it's Donald Trump or a Stop Trump candidate?
I think that some of the people that you just mentioned are interested in the Stop Trump campaign. They're putting money. The Times just wrote a story maybe a couple days ago about the fact that they're seeing at least $2 million in ads going into that state to really kind of start putting ads against Donald Trump. So I think that we're seeing big money donors. I don't know who those people are. Some of them obviously are kind of in a coalition that are having off-the-record conversations and are really talking to each other. But I think one of the important things is that if it's not the Koch brothers, there is definitely a move for big money people to come into that state and say, look, we have to get behind Ted Cruz. We have to put these advertisements out there. So I think Wisconsin is still going to be a really important place, and I think we're really going to see a big fight in Wisconsin.
And of course, Jason, last word to you, because one of the big things that's happening there, of course, at the same time as a presidential election, is a very shaky Senate reelect for Ron Johnson in that state. How much does that factor in, do you think, to the Stop Trump effort?
Oh, that's huge. That's huge, because Russ Feingold could end up winning if Trump is at the top of the ticket. And here's the other thing I want to mention, Joy. It's really, really key. If Trump has rallies, if he has them in Milwaukee or he has them in Milwaukee County, it's very key because you have a very anti-protest police chief there or sheriff there, David Clark, who said that protesters should be beaten and put out and thrown in the streets. If Trump goes to Milwaukee and has another riot at one of his rallies, that could absolutely end his chances of winning that state and push Ted Cruz over the edge.
Wow. Well, I guess we will be watching. Jason Johnson, Bruce Bartlett, Yamiche Alcindor, thank you all for being here. We'll have much more after the break.